Hey YouTube, in this video I'm going to be doing kind of a optimization guide for those that want to play The Last of Us Part 1, but they're not sure exactly if their system can handle it. So in terms of hardware-wise, what resolution you should aim for, what sort of settings to set your graphics level for the geometry settings, animation settings, etc., and that sort of thing. We're going to go through the full rundown here. We're going to use a Radeon RX 7900 XT because it is not the most expensive option on the graphics card side of the house, but it is not cheap by any means. It is a high-end graphics card, so you can see it has 20 gigabytes of VRAM, and I think that a lot of new games going forward are going to be very memory intensive in terms of the requirements to run these games at a good, smooth, playable experience. So in this case, we're running the game at 1440p, and you can see the game itself is using 10 gigabytes of video memory on the graphics card. So that's literally half of the 20 gigabytes available. And then the OS plus additional background apps is using currently 4 gigabytes of memory. So just to kind of show what happens here, if we drop the graphics preset down to high, you can see now the game is only using about 8.2 gigabytes of VRAM. So we have dropped it down quite a bit. If we go down to medium, now it's 6.8 gigabytes of VRAM. So that does bring us closer to like the 50% range. You can see now the ratio of memory for the game versus the operating system and other background apps is much closer. And if we go down to low, now it's, even lower. But I think the problem with low is the visual quality at low is not going to be that good. In fact, it's actually going to look worse playing this game on low compared to the original PlayStation 3 release from 2013, from 10 years ago. So I don't recommend low. I really recommend medium or better. I would say, depending on the monitor that you're playing this game on, if you want to use the full rendered resolution, aim for medium or high. I think anything above high, you're not really going to notice that much more improvement in terms of the textures and the shader quality. So kind of aim for medium and high, and I think as you play the game, you won't really notice that much of a difference, especially between high and ultra. But ultra, I guess if you're like me and you have the VRAM available, in this case we have a 20 gigabyte VRAM graphics card, the 7900 XT, as you can see here, paired up with the Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, so the fastest gaming CPU, with very low power, running this game at like 45 watts. So you can see that's pretty much what I would aim for, provided you have the video memory. There are very few graphics cards on the market that actually have 16 gigabytes or more video memory. That will mostly be the upper end of the AMD RDNA 2 graphics cards. That would be like a 6800, 6800 XT, 6900 XT, and the 6950 XT. All of those GPUs have 16 gigabytes of VRAM. And then on the NVIDIA side, that there's really only the RTX 3090 Ti, which has 24 gigabytes, and there is the RTX 3090, which also has 24 gigabytes. And then if we're talking new graphics cards, obviously this graphics card, the 7900 XT, has 20 gigabytes, and then the RTX 4080 has 16, so not quite as much as this card. For the AMD flagship, so the 7900 XTX, that has 24, and then the RTX 4090 also has 24. So those cards will be totally fine. They can actually push 4K, but I think really for the majority of gamers that want to play this game, you're probably going to be playing on a 1080p monitor. So let's go ahead and look at how much RAM this takes when we drop it down to 1080p. So when we drop it to 1080p, we're using about 9.5 gigabytes of VRAM for the game alone. So that's still a lot, but at 1080p, this does tell me that you can almost get away with like a 3080, but a 3080 is not really going to be a reliable experience. That's why it's going to be stuttering a lot, because it only has 10 gigabytes. And even if you have the 12 gigabyte variant, we're still exceeding the 12 gigabytes. So it's going to be a no-go, even at 1080p. But if you do have a 6800 XT, you'll be okay. Like the performance will be smoother in terms of the minimums and the 1% lows. So 1080p is probably going to be the resolution that most people are going to be playing this on. But the thing is, those higher end GPUs like a 3080 and a CC800 XT, they're really meant for like 1440p in my opinion. So I do think the AMD one does give you the right VRAM, because you would be able to keep it at ultra. If we drop this back to 1080p, we want to keep this at 1080p, so just make sure, yeah, that's 1080p. And then if we go back to the graphics settings, now if we drop this down to high, now we're almost playable on a 3080. But again, the AMD cards do have more VRAM, so they're probably going to be the way to go for those that are running the game. But you can see like the frame rate now is 120, just under 120 FPS at 1080p. So with a graphics card like this, the frame rate's kind of overkill for a game like this. So what I'll do is I'm going to bump this back up to 1440. And then we're going to go to the graphics settings. We're going to leave everything on ultra. So we're on ultra settings, so you can see. And it kind of shows you the effect on performance. This is good at showing like if it is a VRAM heavy feature or if it's a GPU heavy feature. So I really like how Naughty Dog has kind of put all these explanations here for each setting, so you can kind of go one by one. Real-time ray tracing, or real-time reflections quality, I should say, not RT, but real-time reflections, not ray tracing. So let's go ahead and get into the game here with it being at ultra and see what this looks like. Okay, so we're in the game. It loaded in. You can kind of see let's kind of run through here. This is on ultra, by the way, at 1440p. So with everything at ultra, we are above 60 FPS on this graphics card. Let's kind of go indoors here just to kind of see. So inside, we're getting about 68, 63. This game is pretty intense to run. Let's see. The water doesn't look that good to me. I mean, the reflections look good, but I feel like the reflections could look even better than they are. So, and the water's really what's making the reflections in the water is really what's tanking the FPS right now. Okay, so now I've reloaded back in the same save point, and we are now running the game at high, still 1440p. But I've dropped everything down to high. You guys can see the area where there's water, the FPS hasn't improved that much. If we go indoors, it's kind of better. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of like I don't want to say it's like Forspoken, because it definitely does seem like it is averaging higher. But I wonder, we're not compiling shaders, so there's no kind of like background thing going on. But yeah, so this is kind of the performance at high. But again, you guys can pause the video and look. This is high. So now let's go back and look at ultra. All right, this is ultra. So not really that much of a difference in terms of the visual quality going from high to ultra. So this is the reason why I feel like most people that are going to want to play this game are probably going to want to be playing this game on high, or they will end up playing this game on high. Because look at the VRAM right now. The VRAM is 10 gigabytes. It's more than 10 gigabytes of VRAM. If we drop this again, or if we Oh, whoops. That was ultra. Yeah, so if we go down to high, look up the difference in the VRAM. The VRAM for high at 1440p is 8 gigabytes of VRAM. So see where it says memory upper left? Right in green, right under the RX 700 XT, you can see 8,385 gigabytes of VRAM is in use when we have the game running on high. Well, this means that most people with, like, for example, an RTX 3070 or a 3070 Ti or 3080 and 3080 Ti, they can get away with playing the game on high. But for those that have like 6700 XT, they probably can as well, because it's 12 gigabytes of VRAM. But the thing is, here's what's interesting. Ultra. Look at now how the RAM is now exceeding 10 gigabytes of VRAM. And the FPS has gone down. Now we're just over 60 FPS in this particular scene. So this is one of the more demanding scenes because there's all that water with all those reflections. If we go inside, you can see that the FPS goes up slightly. See, now it starts creeping back up towards 70 FPS, but still pretty demanding game. See, now in this room in Boston, you know, now we're like over 70 FPS in this museum. So kind of an interesting game, a very, very demanding game. What we'll do now is let's look at other ways to improve the performance. So we're going to keep it at ultra, but what we'll do is we will turn on resolution scaling. So now let's turn on AMD's FSR2. So FSR2 quality will render the game at 960p. Just like with Hogwarts Legacy, it shows the different internal resolutions that it's rendering. So quality is equal to 960p. Balance is going to be 848p. Performance is 720p. And ultra performance is 480p. So we're going to go with quality because it's the highest one. So let's do that. So now we have FSR2 turned on. And honestly, with ultra settings, I can't really tell. I'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between FSR and like native. So this could be a good way. Now hold on. I think there was a little bit of shimmer. So look at this sign as I walk past the sign. There's a little bit of like line shimmer there, almost like a little bit of aliasing. Let's turn off the FSR2 and see if that gets rid of that. It might just be a behavior of the game. So now at rendered, now here look at native resolution. Native resolution, no more shimmer. See? So that's the advantage of playing a game on native resolution versus with you know, FSR or DLSS. The thing that I will add though is that if you are struggling with rendering the game at native resolutions, see here, in this scene with all this water, I'm only barely breaking 60 FPS. See, it's like it's above 60 FPS, but it's like not that great. So if we want to improve that, we can go and turn on FSR. Now FSR2 is on. Now look at the FPS. We just gained about 20 frames per second just by turning on FSR2. And you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference. In some situations, especially where there's a lot of like horizontal lines, you will notice kind of like a shimmer, like I just pointed out with the sign. But for all intents and purposes, when you're running and gunning and you're fighting like the zombies and stuff, like you're not really gonna notice the fact that it's being upscaled. So this is a good way, and it also reduced the VRAM requirement slightly, ever so slightly, while being able to maintain ultra quality settings. So FSR2 and DLSS is probably gonna be the way that the vast majority of players are gonna be able to play this game. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it. Just real quick, what we'll do is we will try, well, let's try high preset. High preset. Now we've gained another 10 FPS roughly by dropping it down to high while keeping FSR on. So, and then it just kind of goes down from there. But let's, I won't drop it too much lower. We'll go down to medium because I did recommend medium. So medium, you know, now, let's see, are we over 100? See, now we're at like 100 FPS. So medium plus FSR, if we turn off FSR and run it native on medium settings, now, you know, now we're at like 80 FPS. So basically, native resolution at medium is equal to FSR Ultra. So it's going to be one of those things where it's like if you have the game, you're going to need to do your own like stare and compare. I personally wouldn't think too much about it. I would probably, like, since my graphics card is powerful enough to handle 1440p at 60 FPS and above, I would probably end up playing this single player game like this at full native 1440p Ultra. If I want it to be a little bit smoother, I'd probably turn FSR2 on and leave it at Ultra. Or I might just drop it down to high, but leave it at native resolution. So those are kind of the options that I would run if it was me playing the game with a graphics card of this performance tier. So anyway, guys, hope you found that video useful. Feel free to leave a comment below, and I will try to reply as soon as I can. And once again, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thanks.